Chances are when you meet pen testers and you really get to know them, you find out that their history and background is quite diverse and not always as technical as you would think it would be. This week on Offensive Security Interviews, we're going to be interviewing my buddy, Cory Billington, a veteran who went and became a salesperson at a pawn shop and even worked for a rally car school as a sales rep. This diverse background helped him get his footing into pen testing and helped him understand that fundamentals come first before you can actually start becoming a pen tester. So I highly encourage you to not hit that pause button, sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of Offensive Security Interviews. All right. Welcome, everyone, to this week of Offensive Security Interviews. This week, we're going to be interviewing Cory Billington. He is a cybersecurity professional who specializes in offensive security and pen testing. So, Cory, welcome. Thanks for being on the show this week.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So for those that don't know you, you have a pretty diverse background that's really interesting. You were in the military. You've been a salesman at a pawn shop. You've been a rally car driver, salesperson, and now you're working as a penetration tester. So that's a pretty diverse background. So I'd love to hear you elaborate on your journey from the military or wherever you want to start to where you're at now as a pen tester.
Yeah, so I went into the military when I was 19 after working at a restaurant for a couple of years. It was a pizzeria, but yeah, went in the military, went in the Navy. I was a CWIS technician, which is a point defense weapon system that has search and track radar, so it'll search for, track, and shoot down incoming missiles. That was in the gunnery division on board the ship, so I also worked in the armory a lot and did a lot of small arm stuff. Did 3 deployments there, got out, and the plan was to go to school, which I guess sounded like a lot better idea at the time than it ended up being for me, just because I did not do very well in school. But so I got out and immediately started looking for a job, and that's how I ended up at the rally school. It was like 10 minutes up the road from my house. So I started working there. I was doing like grounds maintenance type stuff. So basically just upkeeping the facility for, whatever they needed to use it for rally schools, whatever. And also going to school at the same time, which started out okay. But then as time went on, I just got less and less enthused, I guess, with the idea of being in school. So
Boring.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty much that. And I was pretty lazy. Probably still continue to be pretty lazy. So uh, yeah. So I ended up moving from working at the rally school to working at another place that was quite a bit closer to where I was staying um, at that point, because I had met my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and moved in with her. So it was like a super long drive out there. So I ended up finding a job at the pawn shop in town that was a lot closer, which was actually a really awesome experience in my life. It was pretty cool to work at a small business like that and just do all the different stuff that you get to do in a pawn shop, like all the different people you meet, all the different things that you kind of have to learn on the fly. Awesome social engineering experience.
I was gonna ask, does it
Yeah,
have helped out with the way how you can do social engineering?
yeah, not so much do, but detect. So it's more like, I guess being a blue teamer for, um,
I can see that. You
detecting
probably
when
have a lot of
people
streamers
aren't
coming in,
being the
right?
most honest. Yeah. So, trying to detect when, people are, trying to pass something off as fake. Having to research stuff on the fly. So it was a pretty applicable job for just overall like having a good awareness of security, I would say. So did that for about 3 years, and then ended up going back and trying my hand at sales, which I thought was going to be a lot better because I felt pretty strong in sales after having worked at the pawn shop. Um, just selling high end watches and jewelry and stuff like that. I thought I had a better head on my shoulders for that type of thing, but turns out not. So that didn't really work out very well. And about that time, I was kind of like sort of at a crossroads and started looking around for pretty much everything and anything that I could do to get out of there at the time. And so I went back and looked at school, and I'm like, well, I still have some GI Bill, so why not try and go back to school? So I looked and I was like, yeah, I've always kind of liked computer programming, or the idea of it anyway, because I hadn't done it at that point. But saw that they had some 2-year degree programs for that, and then also certificates. So I figured, the shortest certificate they had was 6 classes. So I was like, hey, what the heck? Like, do 6 classes, get this cert, and collect GI Bill benefits while I'm doing that. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. First semester, I was like, hey, I really like this. Like, I like programming. So um, definitely stuck with it. I think I did 5 classes the next semester. And then at that point, it's kind of when I figured out about, or I found out about how big of a thing security is. And this is 2017, so I was obviously like way behind the 8 ball on this. Like it had been a big thing for quite some time at that point.
Just for
Um,
relevance too, and not to cut you off, for or not a timeline. This is 2017, where you're starting to finally like find your niche in tech.
I wouldn't say
How
find my niche. I would say
or your
even
interest? I
yeah,
guess interest is what a better way.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
interest.
Very
This
important to clarify that I knew nothing about tech at this point. Like I could clear my browser history, but beyond that, probably not doing anything without some instructions.
um
So
so okay, so 2017 is when you finally were like, hey, this is something interesting. When did, if you can, I know from your military background, and a lot of us getting out of the military, we try to figure out like, what's going to be the next thing for us that's going to lead down the fruitful path in the form of a career. When did you get out of the military? Like what year did you get out?
I got out in 2012.
So
And
5 years about.
yeah, so my entire plan was more of an escape plan, rather than like having an idea what I wanted to do. I pretty much just knew I didn't want to be in the military. Um, so like I had done my time, and it was an awesome experience. It definitely taught me a lot, but I didn't really enjoy it very much. I really loved what I did. I loved working on CWIS mounts.
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as like the military, I wasn't really like I didn't really enjoy it at the time. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
for sure.
probably would have been a way better decision like for me. Like if I went in now, I'm pretty sure I would be fine just cuz like I'm not as like hot-headed as I was when I was younger, and can listen a lot better. So like that was my problem is I was just like a when I was younger, I didn't really listen to anybody. So I guess it kind of shows because of how late it took me in life to, to finally get on a decent path. So
I
um,
mean, it happens. I mean, it
yep,
took me a few years to get into cyber. So I think it took me about 3 years to figure out like this is gonna be the way of how to get into it.
yeah, but
Uh, so sorry, I didn't mean to deviate. It was just a one, yeah, for the timeline purposes of being like, because I know a lot of listeners are from the military, so they're always like, well, I need to get in it now, and it's like, sometimes you just got to figure it out.
yeah, yeah, I guess that would kind of sidetrack a little bit, but I would highly recommend if you're in the military to try and explore what you can do while you're in the military.
Hmm.
Um, I know I really wish I had done that because like I wasn't really happy where I was at in the military, but maybe if I had moved into a job like doing this type of stuff, I would have been a lot happier. I don't know. So might have just been like the right environment for me to where who knows, I might have just been like, hey, this is fine. Like I'll stay in for the full 20 years or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I definitely think there's probably a lot of options there to do stuff. And I know I've watched enough other podcasts with people that did do infosec type stuff while they're in the military, and it seems to have worked out pretty well for them. The clearance and that type of stuff. So I think if you can combine like what they could offer you with like, for instance, I probably should have gotten interested in this when I was in and used some of my free time to like do some certs and stuff. I think if you could do like, what's available in the military, as well as like some of the certs that you can find out about just being in the community, that might really set you up whenever you get out.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can't imagine like what I would have been offered if I had gotten out and like, yep, I got a top secret, and yep, I got OSCP, and yeah, like I think that would have probably been a shoe into like a pretty good role.
Heck, man, I had a secret clearance in CEH, and I got a job as a DoD red teamer.
Yeah, yeah, like yep.
So
Mm.
I know I'm just adding adding relevance to that comment. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I mean I think that even, I mean, to go back into your story too with classes, I mean, and I think this is a good way to go back into that story is even in school, I meet a lot of students that think like when you're in school, you just focus on school. And I think that kind of like stalemates yourself as a student where, like for yourself or even myself in my bachelor's degree, I didn't get certs or anything. I just got my bachelor's degree and that was it. I think I had a tech job, but it was like a help desk job. And I I didn't do anything else. And I realized, like hindsight, I wish I'd done more then. So yeah, I mean, to just adding more relevance and to continue into your story about school is that I think we need to apply that same mentality too to school. Like, yeah, you're in school for a technology degree, computer science, IT, information systems, whatever it is. You should be doing that, but you should be doing other things like getting certs or going into the community and figuring out what it is that you like.
Yeah, I kind of think so I did a lot of self-study when I was in school for the second time around, not the first time. The first time I pretty much went to class and then like got the hell out of there. But um, but yeah, so when I went back to school, I was also doing like the stay-at-home dad routine.
Mhm.
So I did my one in-person class, and then my other three classes were at home, which fulfills the GI Bill requirement and all that
Right.
to get 100% of your benefits. But yeah, I did tons and tons and tons of self-study. I mean, but in my opinion, that's just because I went that route in school and found out that that's what I was interested in. So it was like it's very easy for me to go like full into like whatever I'm interested in,
Hmm.
and like spend a bunch of time, uh, just doing that. So I was super interested in the prospect of getting into penetration testing. So that was enough of a catalyst to get me into Linux, which so I had like one working computer at the time when I went to school and was really not in a financial position to be buying stuff like that. So I did some like really dumb things when I was in school. I tried dual booting my first foray into Linux was trying to dual boot that computer, and dual boot it with Kali, which was like totally a big mistake because
Oh yeah.
like I didn't know what I was doing. Now obviously it would be like no problem to do that, but I wouldn't even do that now. I'd probably just use a virtual machine. So um, yeah, but I figured that that was like really important that I try and screw up my only working computer, so I did that. And yeah, I was in class like one time and it like just randomly like I I did something and the computer shut down and came back, and Windows had overwritten the boot partition. So yeah, like it tried to boot up and there was just like nothing there. So
Oh man.
yeah, I ended up having to like mess around with that for a while to get it to boot again. And then I was like, all right, I need to quit messing with this thing. So I just like followed some online guide to like put it back the way it was. But um yeah, and not like stuff like that is kind of like what led me into learning more about Linux,
Mhm.
and got which was enough of a catalyst to get me into learning like systems administration stuff. So I started with like learning. I did something on a site called FedVTE,
Yep.
which has a bunch of free courses for just all types of different IT stuff. And I saw that they had ethical hacking stuff, so I started watching that, and just watched like on every topic I could. If I had some free time or I got tired of like doing an assignment or something, I just turned that on and like picked the topic and learned about it. And that was great because when I like later on, whenever I started trying to like follow some of those like some walkthroughs or stuff like that, I at least knew what it was. So yeah, that and then that was enough of a catalyst to get me to actually follow through with I think it's called Tutorial Linux. It's an awesome channel that basically has like a beginner to sysadmin course. So I followed that. That got me very proficient on the command line, or at least enough to where I could like use it. And I wasn't like trying to remember random things and look like every little single thing up, but I could at least like navigate the command line. I knew, common directories, that type of stuff. Learned a couple like command line tricks to make it a little bit easier to use, and just got familiar with it. Then from there, I moved into like setting up services at home, web servers, set up a file share, set up a print server, and like set it up to where like my wife's computer would work with it, my desktop would work with it. Yeah, like
Really
little.
going to the fundamentals, right? Instead of like just trying to like jump
Yep.
straight into pen testing, right? Understanding the fundamentals play a crucial part into it.
Yep, but there's no way I would have done that without being interested in pen testing. Like it just wouldn't have been enough of a I guess carrot dangling in front of me to like, hey, like let's just go learn how to set a file share up. I'd be like, no, that doesn't really sound like all that much fun to me. But when it's like, no, I need to learn how to do this because if I know how to do this, then I know how those services work and then I can attack them type of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, but ultimately, like all those little things that I did, which all comes from wanting to do pen testing, ultimately it was those things that ended up uh, giving me enough experience to um, like to get my first job doing Linux systems administration. So like when I went in and interviewed for that position, they were a big Red Hat shop, and they asked me a bunch of stuff, questions like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know of Red Hat. I think my desktop distro for like the first desktop distro I used was Fedora. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And, I could like, hey, how did you update it? How did you do like these common tasks on it? And, some of them I didn't know, but, I could at least talk to it. And it was obvious that, I had done stuff before. When they mentioned Samba, I'm like, yeah, I set up a Samba share at home. Like it's a pretty convenient way for me to share stuff from like, my desktop to my wife's computer, and lets her kind of store things. Um, and then I have our printer at home set up to where I can print from my Linux machine. She can print from her Windows machine. Stuff just connects automatically whenever she boots up. So they're like, "Oh, cool!" And that was enough of like, "Hey, this guy's probably worth taking a chance on." So,
Nice.
yep.
That's pretty awesome, man.
But again, none of that would happen without like being interested in pen testing enough to learn how to do that stuff. So,
But I
uh,
mean, at least I think you went the better, like, organic route rather than being like, I want to get to know how to do pen testing. And then you just like go load up Kali Linux and start playing with Metasploit or something, right? Um,
I did do that.
I
So,
mean, we all do it, right? Because we want to play around with it. But
yep.
as long as you don't let that shiny thing deviate away from what you do need to learn, right?
Yep.
Um,
Again, for me, it's just enough of a like. It has to be enough interest to get me to like actually learn something and like see the light at the end of the tunnel for like when I get done learning it, it's going to pay off like to allow me to do this thing that I want to do type of thing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if pen testing has to be that catalyst, I mean, then that's what it has to be, right? It's not bad. I mean, pen testing is, it's a good career field to get into. It's a little difficult, but I think rightfully and not difficult. Maybe difficult's the wrong wording because then that makes it seem like there's like this gatekeeper mentality on it. I think it's just more of it has a high bar because you have to understand so much, right? And and it's becoming popular, and I think it's becoming popular for like the wrong reasons. I think there's this like theatrical kind of like smoke and mirrors a thing that people think pen testing is, and then you tell somebody, hey, if you want to go be a pen tester, first go log on to like Hack the Box and do that for like 8 hours a day for like a couple weeks, and then come back and see if you want to keep doing pen testing.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do hack the box for 8 hours a day. I mean, I definitely have, but um Yeah, yeah. I think it's kind of I think where it gets confusing to a lot of people is the thought that like you have to know all those types of things, and
Mhm.
just kind of forgetting that like there's a lot of things that you probably already know that are super applicable to pen testing.
Yeah.
Like if you currently work in tech, like there's probably systems you've had to deal with or troubleshoot, and like knowing those types of things is super useful whenever you're on an assessment and like say that service pops up, or say a similar service pops up and you have enough like knowledge that crosses over to the service that you run into to like probably works like this would be my guess. And you can kind of pick it up like super quick and like understand how it works, understand like where people make mistakes, that type of thing.
Mhm. But at what point did you actually like realize like you're like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want. This is my golden ticket that I want to go get.
I think I kind of set my sights on that in second semester back to school, kind of
Mm.
when I figured out about it. That I figured out that infosec was such a big thing. I think I kind of like started looking around and it's like, hey, it's called penetration testing. Oh, that's what they call hacking in like the professional world. And at that point, I was kind of like, that sounds pretty cool. I want to do that. So, yeah, I just started like looking it up, and yeah, I kind of set my sights on it at that point. But I also kind of knew that like based on a lot of online reading that um, I was gonna have to spend a lot of time like deviating off course and like learning a bunch of other stuff before I even thought about that. And it was almost discouraging whenever I first learned about it. Um, just because of how much I had read of, people saying like, oh yeah, that's something you do after you've been in the industry for 10, 15 years.
When you say that, do you mean pen testing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of like read, and people were saying like, hey, you need to know so many, like you need to spend time as a developer, you need to spend time as a sysadmin, you need to be doing this stuff for 10, 15 years before you even think about going into that, which now I know is not the case. Because I didn't do all those things, and like I definitely think I'm doing okay in pen testing. Don't really listen to all that crap, I guess would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Or
100%, man.
like pick and choose, like there may be like little elements of truth in there, but I guess try to see the underlying information and don't just take it like, oh well, I guess I'll give up on pen testing for the next 10 years until I've been doing what Bob on the Stack Overflow says or whatever. So
Um, So, with that being said, one of the big things that I think you and I can appreciate, and a lot of listeners can, is like being in the military. You learn a lot of different things. You learn a lot of different leadership techniques. You learn a lot of different ways to deal with stress, and you fill in the gaps, right? So, like, what part of your military background has helped you into pen testing or into cybersecurity in general?
one of the points that I have for that is helped me pretty much in everything after the military, but it was getting used to being new.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
like so I think before I got to the ship, I went to boot camp, then like basic electronics school, and then A school, and then C school, and then finally went to my command. So at that point, I had been in enough different groups, commands, rooms, whatever, where you just eventually kind of get comfortable with being new. Like you just like you walk in and it's like, okay, I'm new, but like whatever, everybody else here is too. So
Mhm.
after that, it's always been pretty easy for me to like if I start a new job or something, I just show up on day one and like don't really have much of like the like I'm new type of jitters. I'm just kind of used to that. So military helped me out a lot with that. Um, and the other big point I would say that helped me out was having to talk to people like multiple levels up my chain of command, or in the military, just people that outrank you. So I have to do that a lot. Have to explain what I'm doing to 3 or 4 different people. So going into the professional world, like that's a pretty valuable skill to have, and it's pretty good to be able to do that type of stuff and like uh, I guess keep your nerves under control. So military helped out a lot with that. Um, yeah, those would probably be my two big ones. Oh, yeah. So I guess anybody that's been in knows about how much paperwork and signing stuff you do. And I think one of the first things that like really got pounded in my head was read what you sign, read what you sign. Whenever I was signing up for, whenever I was like signing all my papers at MEPS, they were like, hey, make sure like whatever you sign, like that's what you're doing. So whenever you're signing all your paperwork for your job, make sure that it says your job. If it says anything different, if it doesn't say this, like do not sign it unless like you're prepared to do that. So yeah, like that's another valuable thing because most jobs you're gonna have to do a lot of paperwork when you start, and I guess just being comfortable with that and like kind of knowing the gig helps a lot, so you don't end up signing something that uh, doesn't work out well for you. So
Yeah. No,
um,
yeah, that's a good point. And I like how the second point too. I think I always talk about it, and I did it yesterday at DC. I think it's 865. It's essentially the group that handles like B-sides Knoxville. And I did a talk with them yesterday. And one of the big things I talked about was like pen testing is not like this whole big technical thing that you think it is. I mean, it is, because I always get pushback when I say that, and it is. But at the same time, I think people underestimate the amount of verbal communication and research and just document work that goes into it. That, those are three things versus the technical part. So it's like that could make up 70 to 60%, and the other is the technical part, right? So then that's overpowering the technical part, right? Um,
yeah,
and being able to communicate, like you said, with the chain of command, right? And being able to talk about something to multiple different people at multiple different levels. Plus, in the military, you're working with people from all over the world, from a lot of different backgrounds, right? Your boss could be, someone, it could be a Southern Californian, and then, his boss that you got to go talk to could be, some, Southerner from Alabama or Texas or something, right? Two totally clashing personalities that you have to learn to work with, and then also learn how to talk, whatever it is that you're trying to translate to them.
yep, I would definitely agree. And I guess to your first point, yeah, I think it's kind of understated how much penetration testing is now, in my opinion, a business process.
Mm,
So I think a lot of the things that have been a part of other businesses for a long time, like it's very much becoming that now. So yeah, like you said, there's definitely a lot of technical work to be done, but um, as far as like the business is concerned, like it's a business process. So being able to do all the things that make it valuable to the business, which is uh, you know covering all your like legal requirements and documenting it in a way to where the business can ingest it and actually put all the stuff you find to use. Um, yeah, it's like tons of documentation. So yeah, I think a lot of that is kind of understated. Um, and then to your second point, yeah, another thing I would add on to having to work with a lot of different people from different backgrounds is in the military, you also learn how to, like, no matter where you're from, you learn how to communicate using like their protocol, I guess you would say. So you
mm,
all kind of learn like established ways of like communicating different things. So yeah, like you said, your boss might be from Southern California, and then another person you work with might be from Alabama, but you all have to like kind of learn those specific terms and communication methods that the military teaches you to like communicate something to and from one another. So I think that helps a lot whenever you go into a new business because you can generally, like, I found it very easy to learn how like people in that workplace communicate, like catch on to their terms, acronyms, whatever the case may be, to pick them up kind of fast and like I guess get up to speed with like talking to people there in a way that like makes sense to them. So like whatever terms they use for stuff, like it's very easy for me to like, okay, that's what they call this, and it just kind of clicks. Which was the same way in the Navy. So
yeah. Yeah. No, 100%, man. You got some CVEs in the later half of 2020, and then you also, I know you got the brand new the OSWE, right? The web expert one,
yep.
offered by Offensive Security. You also have the OSCP. I know you're also, doing a lot of other cool stuff. in the infosec world. But one big thing I wanted to ask was the OSCP and now the OSWE, which is their web based exam. Is those are two big certs that have a lot of impact on you as a professional, because they're seen as like the gold standard, right? And there's a lot of I know there's a lot of checks and balances and bias and partial arguments about if OSCP is an introductory level exam or not. However, they do say if you want to be a pen tester, you need to have it. Which again, that's also a controversial statement, but it is, in my mind, the OSCP, and I haven't taken the OSWE, so this is where I'd love to hear your thoughts. The OSCP, though, that's an exam that's different because it conditions you. I believe that the PWK and the OSCP exam are something that conditions you because of that try harder mentality. I got to pop these 4 to 5 machines within 24 hours. Otherwise, I got to take the exam all over again. It conditions you because it teaches you how to deal with stress, that same stress that we had to deal with in the military. So in the long-winded question to summarize it is, how did those extensive exams, how have those helped you in your pen testing career?
So OSCP, I'm pretty convinced. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty convinced that was the reason that I even got the interviews that I did when I started applying to pen testing roles.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like I've heard other people say, OffSec, and I agree with, they do not give certs away.
No.
So like they're perfectly cool with being like, nope, you didn't meet the requirements, so we'll see you whenever you want to reschedule. Thanks. And usually even less words. Usually you just get you did not pass, and then if you want to
Yep.
reschedule, from what I've seen.
I got that email.
So yeah, but again, I just think, me having done it, it's a cert that, you're not going to pass it if you don't have the fundamentals. I look at it as a very like no BS type of cert. You hack some machines, you write a report, and turn it in, and they tell you exactly how many points you need to pass. The requirements are like very very outlined. It is a process, so it has to be followed. If you don't follow the process, you will fail. Yeah, but everything is out there. Like all the information that you would ever need, it like OffSec provides.
Yeah.
So literally, like you show up, you bring like following the directions to the T, and then you bring the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you got doing the course, and you'll probably be fine. So, but at the same time, if you don't bring that stuff, you won't be fine. You're not going to pass the cert. So I think that just like how they do it, the like fully practical exam, it's just, in my opinion, call it entry level, call it not entry level, whatever you want to call it. I think we all that have done it can agree on what it tests, and it's all stuff that if you have somebody on your team, it's awesome like to know that like, hey, they at least have those like fundamental things that you need. Hey,
Right.
can you host a file so that I can download it? Sure. Like then how to do this stuff like that. Hey, can you set up a listener like so I can send you a shell? Things like that. So yeah, just I think it's just, again, it's just demonstrating that you have those things. So however you want to classify them, is whatever. I think people can pick however they want to classify that stuff, but it's the stuff that like if you're doing a pen test that you're going to need to know how to do. So
Right.
now, is it the only way to demonstrate those things? Absolutely not. There's a million ways to demonstrate that you have those skills, but it's kind of like, I guess, like a HTTPS certificate. You can encrypt the information, but it's nice to know that like, hey, this site is who they say they are, type of thing. Which is like kind of what OffSec provides. Hey, we are us, and we say that like this person knows these skills. Here's the cert to prove it, type of thing.
Here you go. Has
Yep.
so the OSCP is a good cert. I would, I agree to every single point that you said. And again, like I said, it's a conditioning process. I think the OSCP is something good to have because it's almost like when you see someone, when you're working with someone who who passed it, it's like you look at them like, you made it. You made it. Awesome. Because that 24-hour exam can be it can be soul crushing. Just because
I
it's stressful.
Yeah, I was up the whole 24 hours doing mine, and I barely passed. So, like, I mean, it
I
was like just crunch time for me on when I finally got the last machine that I needed. So,
I
um,
think
I
I
probably
know
wasn't ready. So,
I know on the first time I stayed up the entire 24 hours, didn't make it, hit 65 points out of the 70 needed, or well, 100 but 70 needed. And then the second time I think I passed the 70 point mark after like 14, 15 hours, and I was so tired. I was like, do I keep going? I was like, no, I'm going to bed. I did it. um yeah, so with the OSWE though, that's a brand new cert, and we don't have to talk about it too much, but like I'm just kind of curious in the way how it's impacted your career. Has that helped you with those CVs that you got later, or in the later part of last year?
yeah, I would say 100% it did. So yeah, career-wise, hasn't done a whole lot yet. So, but again, I just got it like I think 2 months ago now.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that it was an awesome OSWE, like for me, was I would say even more of a better learning experience than OSCP was. Um, Not to say I didn't learn stuff in OSCP because I definitely did. Um, but I think OSWE was like more impactful to my abilities than OSCP was. So um, yeah, just the processes that I learned for like looking at applications and finding vulnerabilities in applications was like really awesome. Um, all the different techniques that you learn for pulling stuff apart, looking for things, setting up applications in a way to where they give you um, the additional information you need to find vulnerabilities. It's all really awesome. Exam is pretty intense. It's a 48-hour exam.
Of technical portion, right? So a 24 or 48-hour technical exam.
Yep, and it's yeah. I wasn't able to. I don't think I would have been able to stay up the full 48 hours, but yeah, I got some sleep the first night, but yeah, second night I was up the full time, and again, that was the one where I kind of felt like I barely made it again. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
But you made it, man. You made
yeah,
it.
yeah, I was happy too because I was like, man, I don't want to like one pay for another exam, and then two, I don't want to like OSCP stressed me out quite a bit, and then that one didn't stress me out as much, but like the lack of sleep definitely got to me. Kind of had the same feelings I had like after OSCP, where it was like stress plus no sleep, like not good.
Yeah.
I've spent enough like sleepless nights in the military to where I don't think I have a whole lot more of those left in me. So
Oh man. Um, so speaking of training and veterans and all this cool stuff, is has a veteran, myself and you being a veteran, like we both have been able to at some point in our civilian life, post military, been able to use resources like the GI Bill and things like that to help pay for school, and it also gives us a stipend every month to help pay for bills and all that good stuff. So it's good. We get to learn, and we get to, essentially get a check every month to help pay for whatever it is that we're doing, or at least our living. Um, so outside of the GI Bill, right, there's so many other different things. You had talked about Fed VTE. I know there's a lot of other programs out there, but are there any that helped you as a veteran get into cyber, excluding like the GI Bill? I think that's an obvious one. And you already mentioned Fed VTE. So is there any other programs that you had used that you would recommend to any other veterans trying to get into pen testing?
so admittedly, I probably didn't use as many of them as I should have. Um, but like I mentioned earlier, Fed VTE was really
Yep.
cool. Yeah, I probably should have used more when I was getting into it, but again, the area that I was in, InfoSec, like really isn't a big thing. Yeah, the VA office at my school was really helpful.
Mhm.
Like they're very helpful for getting you set up on the GI Bill and stuff, but that would be a good place that I would recommend to people to like just kind of scope out for benefits and stuff, just in general, if you're a veteran. it's pretty likely that they'll know of different resources to point you towards.
Mhm.
But after
That's
getting into pen testing, some of the ones that I would recommend is definitely the VetSec Slack.
oh yeah.
That's a really good thing to get on. Lots of good info on there. I know different companies offer different types of training. Like I think Splunk offers a good course.
Mhm. Yeah,
Probably,
I think you get two like certification courses for free or something like that. It's like the beginner introductory level into Splunk, but yeah, you get it's for free though, all right? So I mean, free is better than paying for it.
yeah. Have you done that one?
No.
I
Uh,
was gonna say a good thing I would probably watch out for on courses too is so even if it isn't like pen testing specific, maybe you get some trial licenses and stuff. Might be like it's always nice to have applications to look at, in my opinion. So
oh yeah.
you know, or different services to set up. You never know, like in your lab, what you're going to need, what type of stuff you can set up, look at, find vulnerabilities in. Yeah. So
Yeah. No,
always,
I 100% agree. If, I know if you're a veteran or no, not if you're a veteran, it's if you're a student, but most veterans are students in my
mhm.
from what I've experienced. So if you're a veteran and you're a student and a student, or just a student, but you can go to JetBeans and you can get all the IDEs from JetBeans for free.
Yep. So
I had that on
um,
the brain because I had to download Sea Lion today.
nice. Yeah, I like CLI a lot. Yeah, I use PyCharm a lot. When I did
Oh
my
yeah.
Java class, I used IDEA, which is really nice, or IntelliJ,
Mhm.
was really nice. When I did one that was like a internet programming course, so they did like JavaScript, PHP, that type of stuff. I would
Mhm.
download the IDs for those. A lot of times, if you have questions where they're like, "Hey, this code's broken. Like, can you fix it?" You can just throw it in there, and it'll tell you where something's like goofy. Like they'll flip a greater than or less than symbol on you to where the editor will just tell you like, "Hey, you're never going to reach this block of code with this, greater than less than pointed this way. So flip it around, and
Yep.
there you go." So
It's like the answers, but is it the answers? Because I mean, like,
yeah,
that's what professionals use, so
yeah. But yeah, my another thing to keep in mind with those is they might not have it for your school yet, but there's a um, GitHub repo you can use for JetBrains to submit a pull request
oh, nice.
to add your school to it. So that's what I did to get mine added, and I got the professional versions, all that. Like once they added it there, I was able to download it and get the professional license for like while I was a student there. So, but
Oh,
now the
nice.
school gets it forever, so people that come after me can go get those too.
Oh, nice. Um, I do know too, like, while we have veterans on the brain, is that if, you're a veteran, you can get and this is something crucial too if you're trying to get into pen testing, is once you get to the point that you wanna get into or that you feel ready to get into pen testing, is you can use, I think I forget how they check it, and you'd have to go find out, but you can get a year of LinkedIn Premium for free. So then I guess to start wrapping up then is then what's I think hindsight, we always look at hindsight, right? We're like, oh, what is it that we could have done? Is what are some things that you wish you knew as a veteran that you would like to share to other veterans getting into pen testing? And I know we talked a little bit about it, so if it's a little redundant, no worries. But just to kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think I did touch on a lot of it earlier, but I kind of wish I had gotten into like this career field, or I guess I wish I had looked a little bit more. Trying to phrase this in a way to where it's not like I knew the future in a way, but because at the time I had no idea that any of this existed or that I would even care about this stuff. So it's like, of course, now I can say like, well, gee, I wish I had gotten into pen testing, when I didn't even know it existed. So um, yeah, I guess I wish I had spent a little bit more time when I was active duty, kind of exploring other career fields.
Mhm.
Um, and then right when I got out, I really wish I had not tried so hard to like, I guess, to get a job, and had spent a little bit more time like exploring options in school, and I guess taking that time to go to school when I got out of the military, because um, Yeah, I mean, that was, 5 or 6 years of like, I say 5 or 6 because I was on a ship for 5, and then 1 year was just training, but, um, it was just work, the whole time, so, yeah, like, shipboard life is a lot of freaking work, especially, like, when you're on deployments, it's just work all the time, like, you're either on watch or doing your job or trying to get some sleep, but I think usually people get 4 or 5 hours of sleep on average a night. I don't know what your experience was, but that was mine.
It wasn't
Um,
fun.
yeah,
I'm just
it
gonna
was
put it there.
just yeah. So, yeah, there was some free time on that, like, depending on what type of watch you had. So could have definitely spent more time learning. So I'd be more set up when I got out. But uh, yeah, just after that, it would have been nice to like not feel like I had to get a job, but like take some time and go to school and uh, look at what options are available at school. And maybe I would have come across this field a little bit earlier and got a little bit more of a head start compared to like I think I was 30, 31, something like that when I got into it. So um,
I mean, it's luckily this is a field though where like age doesn't matter too much. It's just whenever you get into it, you
yeah,
get into it, right? So to wrap up, man, like, is there anything you want to add? Where can people find you on the internet? What are you up to? And all that good jazz.
yeah. I think I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. I think you can just probably just use my name. I think I have my handle in my name, like next to my name in the video.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
put it. It's they, right?
yep. So that's my Twitter handle. Usually a lot of memes. If you like memes, you can follow me. I I throw up a lot of memes that I come across. Yeah, websites they hack me or theyhack.me. I finally updated that thing, so now whenever I do like find vulnerabilities or come across cool things that I finally learned or finally came across on the internet, and I do write ups on, I can
Mhm.
do a nice blog post on it now.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I'm finally becoming a blogger. So
Ooh,
yeah,
welcome.
I but yeah, I think I did one not too long ago on connecting to a couple of routers that I had laying around using UART. It's a pretty neat thing if you want to look at like hardware for vulnerabilities. It's nice to get a root shell to be able to look at that stuff. So
Show me, bro.
yep,
I'm gonna start saying that now.
yeah. So uh, yeah. Other than that, yeah, don't know what certs I'm going to do next. I'm working on Rasta Labs right now, and that's been pretty cool. Uh,
By
looking at
that's Hack the Box, right?
yep, Hack the Box Labs. So that one's pretty neat. It's like a more red teamy type certification, and looking at possibly doing maybe one of the new OffSec certs, but I don't know. Think I'm kind of good on doing stuff like that for a little while. So
Yeah, I mean, gotta pace yourself, right? I mean, you get. I think one of the things too that sometimes we become victim of is that we start learning a lot of things to get into the field, and then you never plateau in this field, right? So like you don't get to a point where you like just stop and or I'm sorry, not plateau. Plateau is the wrong word. You never have an end goal, right? Like it's just a continuous learning experience. And when you're trying to get into the field, that continuous learning experience is amplified times 100. And then once you get to the point that you wanted to get at, you're still at 100 a lot of the times. And it takes a little bit, it takes some cognitive abilities to be like, I don't have to do a million things at one time anymore.
yeah, I would agree. I kind of feel like I'm at a point where I can learn enough just doing like just say like looking at an application. Like there's something I'll have to learn to to I don't know, even just to get the application set up sometimes. But like a technique that I'll need to learn to see if it's vulnerable to something, and may or may not already know it, but just like getting more practice, I might get better at it, or I might find an easier way to do it. Um, so I feel like there's enough of those opportunities now with the stuff that I look at to where, yeah, I don't know that I need to necessarily do any more certs versus just um, doing the hands-on stuff to pick up those little tips and tricks that make life easier. Um, when you're doing this type of stuff. Which it's, in my opinion, kind of the same way when you're at work. If you're on a pen test, you're gonna have to learn things like while you're doing the pen test, and yeah, it's all knowledge one way or the other. It doesn't matter if you're learning it, doing a cert degree, whatever. You're still learning that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, man. That definitely makes sense. And I mean, don't be a cert collector, right? Like, don't you see a lot of people get certs just to get certs. So, um, chase the knowledge and what it's going to bring to you rather than the letters that you can attach to, your name or your resume.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of the certs out there just aren't like super interesting to what I want to do, which would be another thing I'd recommend is, yeah, make sure that, well, I guess like whatever works for you. I don't really like telling people what to do, but
It's your insight though, man.
I find it's much easier to chase a cert in something that I'm very interested in than it is to necessarily just like, oh well, I have to get this cert to be able to get this job. I guess I would say like try and think like try and throw a little bit of caution to it. If you're not gonna like getting the cert, are you gonna like doing the job that requires the cert? You know.
That's a good. Yeah. That's a good statement, man. I mean, yeah.
So
If you don't think you're gonna like studying it, you're probably not gonna like doing it.
yeah, that's a really good point. So
I was taught that as a kid, that if I didn't naturally want to study something, it probably meant that I didn't want to do it. Um, just because, I don't know, my stepdad he was an adjunct professor growing up, so he told me, he read a lot of books, and he always told me, said if you don't if you're doing classes and you don't read the textbooks, it just means that you're just there to get the grade. You're not there to learn. I was like, wow, all right. So yeah. All right, man. Well, we're clocking in at about an hour now. So thanks again, Cory, for being on the show. If anybody wants to reach out to him, he's put out his information. We'll make sure to put his information in the show notes. And yeah, thanks again for being on the show this week, man.
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks again to my awesome guest this week, Cory Billington, for being available to talk on the show. Cory Billington can be found at theyhack.me, and he can also be found on Twitter at _they, that's TH3Y. As he mentioned, he does have a couple CVEs under his name, so if you want to check them out, they are CVE 2020-28328 and then CVE 2020-4002. If you liked listening to the show this week, make sure you subscribe to it on YouTube and on Spotify. We're putting out new episodes every couple weeks or so. And then also, if you want to be on the show, please go to our website at offsecinterviews.com and go fill out the form. Until next time, we'll see you then.